Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Kim Carando. I would like to welcome you to this session on the One Click College Admit program. I know this session was meant to be led by our parent outreach coordinator, Claudia Aly, but she was unfortunately not be able to hold the session tonight. So I'm going to be doing that in her place. Claudia is on my team at ISAC, the College Access and Outreach team. I'm the assistant director there, so I'll be leading you through the information that she was planning to cover in this session, specifically on the One Click College Admit program. So just a few housekeeping items to get started. This session will be recorded and available on the live section of our website where you can see all kinds of different videos that typically Claudia has recorded on different topics. So this one will be housed there after we finish up here this evening. Also, you can use the chat feature to ask questions. I'm going to be checking it throughout. And then I'll also leave a little bit of time at the end and hopefully to get all those questions answered as we go through. So before I get too much into the One Click College Admit program itself, I did want to introduce everyone to ISAC and what we do at the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. So our mission is to provide Illinois students with information and assistance to help make education beyond high school accessible and affordable. So ISAC is the college access and financial aid agency in the state of Illinois that administers scholarship, grant, prepaid tuition, and student loan repayment and forgiveness programs. And then, as I mentioned, I'm in our outreach division. So we have various methods that we use to build awareness for our programs. For example, these YouTube live sessions that we hold, we want to make as many things, of course, accessible to all. And we provide in-person sessions as well. We have a bookings feature that we use. I'll cover those resources at the end, but again, just kind of wanted to introduce ISAC and make sure everyone's kind of aware of the different kind of resources that we provide. So before I get too much into the OCCA program, I wanted to just review a little bit about the traditional college application process. So just some foundational information on how the admission process typically works for students. So this session is for parents, so I'll be referring to just the student process as we go through. You may start looking and researching into available colleges, universities. There's a lot of different options out there earlier than junior year, but that's typically when students really start to think about what they might want to do. And as you'll find out about OCCA, we have made that accessible to juniors. So just some different things that juniors or seniors as well. If a student hasn't started thinking about college until senior year, that's completely fine. Their options are still very open at that time, so they can continue to do that research and look into different things there. So some different attributes that students might want to look at in their college are location, of course. Are they interested in staying close to home, or do they want to venture out a little bit further? Of course, things that match their interests as well as their academic background, and then also just program options that they might like. Students might be interested specifically in, let's say, nursing. So maybe that's where they begin their search, is what kind of nursing programs are available in my state or out of state as well. So we'll cover kind of all different things, but then again, specifically focused in on the One Click College Admit program and how it's going to be a very highly beneficial to Illinois students to participate in. So again, when we talk about the application process, this could include community colleges, which would be 2-year programs. Those typically have rolling admissions or open enrollment, meaning a student could apply at any time. And then universities or 4-year schools, they might have specific application deadlines. Sometimes they're at the beginning of senior year. Those will start, especially if a student wants to be considered for something like early admission. So depending on the school, it would be smart to go ahead and start thinking about looking into those deadlines and seeing what the options might be to make sure you don't miss any of them. And then those would maybe continue throughout senior year. So the initial admissions deadline might be different than sending in your financial aid information and things like that. So just definitely something to keep an eye on, especially for 4-year schools. So the ways that students typically do apply, I would say at this point, paper forms are very much aren't used at all really anymore. It's really in more of an online application process that's done through the college or university's website. So you definitely want to go there and see what those options are. They're going to have all the information that you need to fill that out there. And then also, and I'll be referring to Common App quite a bit throughout this since we have partnered with them for the OCCA program. But Common App is useful for all different kinds of programs because it's basically a one main application that a student can fill out to have all their applications of interest in one place and really keep things organized. So it can be used outside of the OCCA program, but then again, we have partnered with them for this specific program, so it will be useful here as well if a student is interested in staying in state for school. So when students apply through the Common App, they would create their account, and then they can add colleges that they're interested in on their list. And then they would complete their profile with sections like their education, their interests. If they want to submit test scores, they're able to do that there. They might have an essay that they want to upload, things like that. Like I said, it really keeps everything organized and in one place. So kind of regardless of the OCCA program, Common App can be helpful to just help a student keep everything going in the same direction and all in one place. So the student may also, in addition for the typical application process, need to request letters of recommendation. This could be from, say, their counselor, teachers, employers, things like that, or submit essays, and then also pay for each college's admissions or application fee. So those are all things that are in the traditional application process that I wanted to present in order to really focus in on the benefits of participation in the One-Click College Admit program. So what OCCA is, and you'll hear me refer to it as that acronym, stands for One-Click College Admit. It's a free direct admissions program for Illinois for high school students, and it allows them to be admitted to participating state universities based on primarily on their GPA. And again, this is in partnership with Common App, so it doesn't require additional steps. The primary benefit of this new program, besides the fact that it's free for students, is that it also removes other traditional barriers that they might have in applying for college. So the main benefits there will be no application fees. So those are all waived by participation in this. And then students also don't have to worry about submitting essays or letters of recommendation through the OCCA portal of the Common Application. So once they've shown that they're an Illinois resident and are eligible for the program, they no longer will be asked for the letters of recommendation or essays. And then they will also not be prompted to pay those application fees to schools that they are then eligible to apply. So again, this is being implemented in partnership with Common App. They would be required to have that application. And I will put some links in the chat at the end as well. But Common App does, of course, have their own website where you need to go create an application. And it is required for the One-Click Admit program in addition to any other schools that you may want to apply for outside of the state. Okay, so looks like we don't have any questions so far. So I'll go ahead and move on. I want to really hone in on the differences between these programs this year. So this is a brand new program. This is the first year that it's been eligible for this year's seniors. There are quite a few differences in how the program will look moving forward and how it looks for this year's seniors compared to would be the class of 2026, then how it will look for this year's juniors, who will be the class of 2027. So students can begin getting those automatic acceptances to Illinois public colleges and universities through One-Click now. So if a senior wanted to get on the One-Click website tonight and do everything that they need to do, they would start receiving those admissions offers pretty quickly. So again, they do have to have that Common App account. Once it is created, and this is one of the primary differences, I will go into how this will work for juniors more specifically, but I do want to point out this is a primary difference. When the account is created for seniors this year, they will self-report GPA. So because it is self-reported, the colleges will likely still need to verify the GPA, later on in the process. But to get the ball rolling, the student does self-report that GPA. So the main difference there is next year's juniors, ISAC is working in partnership with the Common App to have those GPAs verified through the high school that the student is planning to graduate from, in order to already have that verification complete. So by the time it gets to the colleges of interest, they already know it's a verified GPA from the end of junior year. And this step is a little bit different. So that's really the main difference. It will look a little bit different for how students opt in. But again, for this year, for the class of 2026, students create the account, they self-report the GPA. And then once they've shown that they have an Illinois address, the Common App will then continue the matching process on the student's behalf. And then the students will be able to see on that account which schools that they are eligible to apply for based on that GPA. And again, it will continue to go through a process of being verified. But so it will be based on what they self-report, but it is based on that GPA more than any other factor, because all those other benefits that I mentioned a few minutes ago are not part of this process. It's really based on that GPA. So once the institutions are matched with the student's GPA and the students express an interest in those institutions in their Common App account, then they complete the additional steps to finish the application process. So it really is all done there within Common App. Of course, for this year's seniors, they're quite a bit further along in the process. They probably, hopefully, already filled out their FAFSA. If not, they'll be doing that very soon. So I'll get into that a little bit more later as well. But the FAFSA is still required. This is not a financial aid program. So seniors, especially if you have not filled out an FAFSA this year, if your student hasn't filled out a FAFSA, definitely want to do that pretty quickly. But we're already pretty far into senior year. So those applications, you'd want to submit those as soon as possible. And the offers would start to come in pretty quickly once the opt-in process by seniors is complete within that Common App account. Okay, and just kind of a side note, students can still apply in their traditional way by going online to each of the college websites. But in order to get all those benefits that I mentioned, you do have to go through the Common App and the One Click College Admit website to receive all of those benefits. So you won't see any of that presented, because essentially any student can go onto any college website and apply. This benefit is for Illinois students who want to stay in Illinois for their post-secondary experience and participate in and stay in Illinois for their post-secondary. So I do see a question in the chat. Is the One Click College Admit only for Illinois universities? Yes, that is correct. Again, though, a student can have other schools in there in their Common App account, but they would only receive these benefits and see this match process for One Click with Illinois universities. So yes, that is correct. Okay, so the main change that I mentioned that will be for juniors this year. So the application or the opt-in process is also already open for this year's juniors, or the class of 2027. Juniors won't self-report the GPA. They have to they must opt in for their final junior year GPA to then be used for this matching process. So once they've opted in, that's really all they would do for now. So for example, this evening, if a junior wanted to go on the One Click website and opt into the process, they do need to go create that Common App account sooner than later. But for right now, that's essentially all they would need to do, because the rest of the process will essentially happen behind the scenes between now and then, or between now and their senior year. So you will also be able to see a list of the participating Illinois schools on the One Click website, public universities, community colleges. It's a large list of schools that when a student completes their account and fills out their profile, opts in, they will then make themselves eligible to receive application or admissions offers from all the schools that are listed as participating on the One Click College Admit website, which I will share that in the end as well. Okay, so another piece of this that this year's seniors don't have to worry about, but is a factor for this year's juniors who are opting in, is that parent consent is required. The reason for that is, again, goes back to the GPA piece. So because GPAs are academic records, parent consent is required for any student who is under 18. So the consent piece isn't anything too involved, but the parent does need to be there with the student as they're filling out the opt-in process to basically check a box, enter their name, read through the information of what they're consenting to, and provide that at the time that the student is opting in. So essentially, parents and students need to sit down together, read through all the application information, understand what the process looks like, and then kind of talk that through and be involved in this process together. So once the GPA match occurs between junior and senior year, Common App will then email the student with those direct admissions offers. And the deadline that we're working with right now is September 15th of senior year. So juniors that opt in today, say a junior went in and opted in today, by September 15th, which is the beginning of their senior year, they will be receiving those application or those admissions offers within their Common App account. And they can start to know this very early in their senior year. So essentially, they're going to know where they've been admitted or where these offers are coming from before they would even fill out the FAFSA next year, because the FAFSA comes out in October. So the idea behind this is not only to give students as many options as possible, but it is a great starting point, because if a student wants to apply somewhere else as well, they'll already know what they're eligible for to stay in state if that's the option they want to go with. And it really just makes it very easy to compare. And again, without all of those application fees and the other things involved, they're already going to have a ton of information at the beginning of their senior year to help work with them to make a great choice and know what their options are. Okay, so students will be notified of those next steps. Another thing is to just a little bit going into what the opt-in questions are. So again, I will put the One Click College Admit website in the chat here shortly. I'll go ahead and do that now. I'll share some other resources at the end, but this is just the main website where you would go to do all this. Yes, juniors can go ahead and create that Common App account. We would actually recommend that they do as soon as they opt in or shortly after, because then that allows the accounts to be matched up. So you would definitely want to do that. They're not required to have one in order to opt into One Click, but they wouldn't want to opt into One Click and then wait until their senior year to create an opt-in or to create a Common App account, because that match process would have needed to already happen. So don't wait too long. But yes, if they want to go ahead and do the opt-in process tonight, and then also go ahead and start the process of creating a Common App account, that would be ideal. Definitely just want to give as much time as you can. So for the electronic form of what the opt-in process looks like, things that will be collected: student's name, their home address, birth date, telephone number, email address. We always recommend when students are sharing email addresses or reporting them for a form like this, if they can have a separate email account that's not through the school account, that might be best, just to make sure that they're receiving all the information. Sometimes those have blocks on them. Sometimes they are just not as available to students. So it can be a student email address if that's your only option. But if it's possible to have an email through a different way to access, that would be best, to make sure they're getting all the information that they need. You also want to include the high school name, and then students will receive some optional demographic questions as well about first generation status. And then other things like that. They don't have to answer those questions, but it's just kind of for us to gain as much information as we can as an agency and with our partners to know the status of the students that are participating in this program. Okay, so after opting in and the student creates that Common App account, again, there's no rush on that, but we want to recommend that they would do that as soon as possible, just to have all the information that they need. So I mentioned when the students would receive start receiving their offers within their Common App account, which would be September of their senior year. the main deadline that we're working with for juniors to opt in is the end of May. So the Friday before Memorial Day, which is May 22nd this year. So essentially, juniors have all year long to opt into this. Typically, most schools will be out of session by that, going on summer break. We want to give juniors their entire junior year to do that, because if they didn't do that and they go back to school their senior year, this will not be an option for them. So I just want to make that really clear. It is this year because we're transitioning out of the former version of this program. Moving forward and starting with the class of 2027, only juniors can opt in. So if the time frame passes, because of that GPA match, seniors will not be able to opt in once they've reached that deadline has passed. So they're no longer juniors. Once they're seniors, the deadline has come and gone. So definitely want to make sure to opt in as soon as you can during junior year. And then the reason behind this too is that the match happens over the summer. So what we're working with partners, like I said, a lot of this stuff happens behind the scenes. We want to be doing that final GPA that's based on whatever that the end of the junior year GPA is. We want to match that over the summer so that we can get those offers out to students as quickly as possible during senior year. And if we had different deadlines going on, that wouldn't be possible. So that's kind of the reasoning behind that. And we anticipate that this timeline will remain the same. So, this year's juniors opting in, they're going to be receiving offers during their senior year. When we get to next year's junior class, it will essentially be the same process over and over. So this is kind of how we're looking to have the program set up moving forward. And we're just getting used to doing that, but also wanting to make sure that the class of 2026 or this year's seniors know that there is an option for them if they want to participate this year before the program evolves into being essentially a program for juniors. Okay, so just a few reminders here. The direct admissions, or OCCA, is not a financial aid program. I know I mentioned this already, but like I said, having these offers come out before the FAFSA is available, to where students can already know where they've been accepted or are eligible to be admitted through the one-click admit program, and then to fill out the FAFSA and get this information as early as possible is going to be greatly beneficial to your student. So you want to definitely get this in as soon as possible and start receiving that information. The other great thing about this is it really just gives students a foundation to go from. There's definitely nothing wrong with continuing to explore your options and deciding, if you're thinking about out-of-state schools, continue to do that research. But the idea is at the beginning of senior year, you'll already know everything that is available to you if you decide to remain in the state of Illinois for your post-secondary. So these are all great benefits to participating in the program. And I know that one of our main priorities at ISAC is just getting students the information that they need to make very informed choices, of course, in combination with their families and their support system as well. So that's a great way to do that, is to get the information as soon as possible. Okay, another thing to note is that this specific programs that students might be interested in may have different admissions requirement, and this is a general application to our public universities in Illinois. So again, I mentioned nursing earlier. If a student's really interested in a program that a specific program, they might have their own requirements that would require a separate application process. That being said, a student would still need to be admitted to that university, which the one-click admit program can help with that. But they would also need to be in communication with the specific programs on campus that they're interested in to make sure that they meet those requirements and are completing those processes as well. So definitely want to make sure to just, again, do your research and know what's out there and know what the different options are. But want to make sure you're not missing any of those processes. And I want to make sure it's clear that participating in one click would not mean that a student is automatically admitted into any of those specific programs that they might be interested in. So definitely want to keep an eye out for those and for that information. Again, the one-click admit program is only for Illinois colleges and universities. You can use Common App you might as well, if you already have the account for one click, you might as well look into the other options there if you are interested in those schools. And just to be clear as well, this is not a requirement for any students in Illinois. It's just highly recommended, kind of for all the reasons I've been mentioning throughout this session, are that it really simplifies the process. It saves students money. It saves their families money. It saves them on having to do those essays and letters of recommendation. We just feel like putting a program like this together has cut out a lot of those barriers that students face that prevent them from exploring their options or maybe from applying at all. So we're really wanting to use this program to encourage students to put the information that they have out there and just see what might be possible for them and use that as a starting point. So really hoping that everyone is really seeing the benefits of this program. Again, I did put the One Click Admit website in there. I did want to mention just a few more ISAC specific resources. So we have a program called the ISAC Core. They're a group of near peer mentors that are around the state, and they can work with you locally and in person. So I'm going to put our student portal website in the chat as well, and you could find your local ISAC core member here. And then our student portal has a lot of different resources as well that you might find helpful, but that's specifically for the ISAC support. Oh, thank you for pointing that out and the misspelling. Appreciate that. Okay, on the One Click website. Thank you for that. Okay, so that's how you find the core member. And then if you're not necessarily interested in meeting with someone in person, we have another great resource called Bookings, where you can look up and find out someone's schedule and meet with them a virtual meeting, so you don't have to leave the comfort of your home. You could get all your questions answered virtually. So I'm going to put that link in here as well. And then a final resource that I have here is for our ISAC College Q&A. Basically what we've done is we have two different lines, one in English, one in Spanish, where you can text in your questions. So we have the in-person option, we have the bookings option for virtual meetings, and then this would be a texting option. So this is not AI or an automated response. This is an actual live person that's an ISAC employee that is trained on the information that they're sharing with you and knowledgeable about the college going process, that they can help you along the way. So I'm going to put this information in the chat too. So you'll have this here. You just have to opt in by texting in your first and last name. And then we don't send a lot of like spam messages or anything like that, but we do have to track who's participating. So it's really about that more than sending out messages. Typically, you will just send us questions and we will engage with you in that way. Okay, so that I couldn't see how that was going to look when I put it in the chat. That 847 number is the English number, and then the 773 number is the Spanish number, just to be clear on that. I'll put it in there separately too. I'm trying to see if we have any more questions. Okay, looks like we're good on questions for now. If anyone has anything else, feel free to drop it in the chat. We have just a couple more minutes here. And again, I thank you all for joining today. I'm really excited about this program. I've been with ISAC for a while, and like I said, we're always kind of working with our other state partners to evolve the programs that we have available. And this is in partnership with the Board of Higher Ed and the Community College Board as well. So it's really an agency, a state education agency effort to bring these resources to students and just simplify the application process as much as possible. So yes, appreciate y'all joining. I think I did maybe forget to put the Common App website on here. So I'm going to do that very quickly, and then I'm going to close out. Yes, I'm putting that Common App in here right now. Yes, for right now, and you won't see them listed on the website, the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign and UIC in Chicago are not currently participating in the program. And we'll continue to keep that list updated. You'll see all the community colleges listed on there, and then the remaining public universities in the state as well. Okay. Well, thanks again for joining and have a great rest of your evening.